My management teacher was telling me, Mohammed, which lesson are you going to learn? The process of collective reflection, the intelligence that is leading us to think all together as human beings, thanks to this tolerance that we are seizing here in this kingdom of Morocco, to listen three eminent persons that are going to resume to us, encapsulate the works of this 11th Congress. So I'm calling Mrs. Anikova, Director of International Relationships Emploi Services. Mrs. Gauvin, you have 10 minutes, 15 seconds. Mr. President of WAPES, dear Nordin, dear Honorary President Mr. Kamil, dear former President Mr. Kafer, Mrs. President of at the Professional Insertion, dear Amal, ladies and gentlemen, Regional Director of the Public Services of Employment all over the world, dear colleagues, representatives of the Public Services of Employment all over the world, dear members of the Executive Committee. The task that I was awarded is very difficult, and to resume the works of those 3-4 days in 5 minutes is not easy task. It is an exercise that stipulates a given tact, but I'm a sportswoman. I can make the challenge, and you have seen me dancing yesterday, and now I know that you're a good dancer and you'll do like to this. So let's start with the lessons that we need to maintain and to recall from the works of those 2 days. The huge contributions within the plenary sessions and within the parallel session, the contribution of the organizer, the interest of the quality of exchanges. No need to recall some feedbacks of the interactions. The subject that we have chosen for this Congress was of particular importance for the present status, which is resuming the challenges, some given challenges that are facing some public services, but are not limited to them, and that the new world that Claude Leroy has introduced to us yesterday is obliging us to take this challenge. We are very interested to this topic. The proof that you are plenty of people are still here to follow what is going on about those key points. The missions of our public services for employment gathered under the WAPES in an international context of employment, depending on skills and employment job offer that we are all acquainted with. We are the first public organizations that are facing the job seekers and the employers, which is a huge and tough responsibility upon our shoulders. Our international organization is going to help us provide the best services, the best organization within a changing context. What is at stake in the future is that today, surrounding us and in front of us, the challenges are facing us. The job seekers, the employers, the actors that we are working with them on a daily basis are inciting us to have a solidarity, to exchange, to cooperate within our organizations, which is an international association. As I said, we are giving and we are receiving at the same time. We are all equal within our organization. Our platform of knowledge, of networks, of accompaniment is having no change at all. It is the support that is proposed so as to modernize, to update, which is at the same time a collective challenge. And sometimes we are under the regards of our workers and our job seekers. But we need still to adapt to every and each individual specificity within our public services that we know perfectly and that we have gone through difficult situations. As a reminder of some of our activities, I'm going to pinpoint to some events that have marked me during those 2 days of work. First, what it was mentioned yesterday morning, with the different approaches about the effects of digitalization, the fundamental stakes about the future for employment that we know and witness on an international level, but we need to implement on a local, regional level, because it's going to have some effects on some situations, the trajectories and path that we need to have. We need to be very meticulous and to be to pay attention to what is happening around us, which is accelerating nowadays. So to share diagnosis elaborated at different levels that are concerning us, the different actors within the International Association has reminded us about this, and it is fundamental. Our public services, and as well as the other associations, as well as the actors that are surrounding us, employers, stakeholders, as well as the territorial actors that are in front of us. Effects over skills, competencies, which is an international phenomena, not the same size as digitalization, but it is internationally widespread. That was recalled by OCDE. The investments on competencies, skills is approved by everybody, so as to understand how some of those skills can become obsolete and that some of them become emergent and pending, and how we can the topic of soft skills, digitization skills, is a very important topic that needs at the same time to be a point of our matching, but also to act and react, so as the involvement of all the actors of associations on the international level, on the regional, national, local level, can tackle those matters. France Leroy has reminded us yesterday morning about some simple facts about the risks and opportunities that are speculated by these situations. When we need to work about the question of digitalization, we need to adapt our businesses to the modern exigencies. We need to transfer our services and organizations towards procedures that are in favor of the digital force, but not the digital only. And we need to conceive our services, our innovations, our potentialities of development from different perspectives and into a cooperative approach. The methodologies need to be integrated within our public services for employment. Those methodologies should not be outsiders from our organizations. These sessions allowed us to frame a given set of topics, and here I'd like to put some words with a randomly order that is properly subjective, that is, it's just me speaking. We have some different contexts, and I think that we need always within WAPES have this on mind. We are not within convergent situations. We are within a diversity situation where all the analysis, synthesis, examples should inspire all of us at the limit of our needs and responsibilities. The digital competencies is at the charge of society, of public powers. It is also a responsibility for the public services for employment, for the public, for the capacities that we are having on one hand to develop the digital services by accompanying job seekers, but also on what we need to recall as the gap, the territorial gap and the social one that we know all. We need to have some costs, of course, to develop those services if we work on the best combination via mobile or face-to-face. all what is at stake about the learning attitudes, to assess its impacts and its influences that it may have upon the job seekers, to make that those job seekers, they are all in need, so as they can access easily and rapidly into those services. An access on individual basis, which is also the responsibility of the job seekers. These are the leverage and the pillars on which we need to work. The skills of the digitalizations and also physical assets were also recalled, because the workshop that was dedicated to the development of entrepreneurships and the self-auto-entrepreneur, and also the interest of the recommendations formulated on this topic, so as to we can work within the webs and on our different public services for employment, the development of what it corresponds to a chance, an opportunity, a return to activity, to employment, to a revenue in different regions of the world. All the countries scattered to the four winds are brought with some differences about the question of entrepreneurships and the access to the digital services. Examples of digital services were largely debated. That Susanna has excellent presentation this morning that are dealing with strategy, orientation, examples of e-services, online services, that the examples are numerous. We can even have fun by collecting a catalog. Two things may impress us. We can see that the number of services, their diversity, adaptability degrees of services that are offered to the job seekers by the employers are much more in number. We have largely developed our capacity in this subject. And the other criteria that I find very interesting also is a criteria of transparency. I think that we are much more transparent as a public service when we are exchanging our exchange, because those services, they are accessible via some platforms open to everybody, rapid, flexible, personalized and adapted, accessible, free, pragmatic services. These are the terms that keeps coming to describe the services during the day, yesterday, and of course this morning. Smartphones, to mix between physical and digital actors. No need to come back to it, but it gives us an opportunity to think about the best communication channel for the best services, depending on the needs and the exigencies for the job seekers. I have used this expression because Jean Basser is expression, but I'm quoting here, that he has used and placed during last WAPES Congress in September. And this far away and this more rapidly, these are the keywords to push us for the future. So we need to think on a collective basis about this coordination, this mixed appreciation that we need to have about the orientations, processes, what the achievements, how we can develop, what needs to be left, what needs to be maintained. Questions of cost, financing needs also to be evoked, and they were not largely debated nor mentioned today nor yesterday, and it is a little, you may say, a tough and delicate topic. I will give you now some reflection points about what all those points can help WAPES for tomorrow. At the same time, for the Europe region that I'm representing, but also for all the other regions, but for WAPES as a general. We need not to quit the subject. I may say that the digitalization is not a problem. It is much of the time a solution, part of solution. I think that we can end the 3 upcoming years about the question of digitalization and the role of the public services for employment, about the digital offers of our different services, about the way we are entering into it today. Starting from this point, we need to take it into consideration about the evolution that is going to impact our societies in our own spaces and regions. We need also to take into consideration what Fons has recalled yesterday. It is a question of performance, but also a question of development for the public services of employment that are today not that developed compared to other regions of the world. So we need not waste any minute about this question of digitalization, the role of our services and the digital services that needs to be implemented, the long-term strategy, its implementation, its entering into power via some diagnosis elements and assessment, some progress assessment, bench learning that we are going to implement are for sure extremely important. Some orientations that we need to bear in mind. The first is a very simple one. The orientation vis-a-vis our customers and we as public services, they are the job seekers, the employers, all the counselors within our organizations that are delivering some services. It is a very important aspect. Second orientation is innovation. To be co-creator, co-designer, to allow a margin to test, to assess, and to adapt those digital services. Third key word is transparency. We need to maintain all together about the effects of digitalization and to take into consideration those effects of digitalization within all our association. It was mentioned this morning that on the developing countries we have less impact about digitalization, so we need also to work on this point. We need, fourth one, we need really to engage fully about the stake of big data, artificial intelligence, the services for customer, job seekers, employers, counselors, all the procedures of matching, learning, because all of this needs to compose and put us into a support for the process of the decision making for all the actors that I have just mentioned. Fifth recommendation is the partnerships, but with some new kind of partnership, because I think everyone here with us need to rethink about the suitable partnership. We have also to work on those partnerships based upon the examples that were mentioned yesterday. That is to say, partnerships with GAFA that are more or less some operational partnership. They are present, like for example, Microsoft, Google, or LinkedIn. Some of them are well aware of this. What is the strategic framework? How that all those procedures, this win-win situation for the private interests as well as the public interests. And also those partnerships needs to be medium, because those partnerships that we are seeking to find in a pragmatic way with the other international organizations. We have thought about it during the General Assembly, and we are going to talk once we met with the presidency of the WIPS. Sixth action what are the opportunities for the structure that represents the international association. And modestly I can say that we need to think about elaboration of the working plan, meetings scheduled for this 3 years, so as every region and every PUS needs to have a role that is separated between today and after 3 years, and what impact should the digitalizations have on our institutions. So we need to work on those evolutions. To conclude, it was long, I know, but the last point is dedicated to thanks and gratitude. We have talked this morning about thanking expressions, and WAPES is very aware of this. We have lived very exceptional moments, warm moments, enthusiastic. We laughed together, we imagined things together, we talked together, we have worked and get to know each other closely, and we could hope, I don't know if we can hope much, but it is giving us a shrink of hope during this 20 April 2018 to go forward. Thank you very much for the Kingdom of Morocco, for our dear friends Moroccan, for hosting these events that were extraordinarily active, that proposed to us 2 days of full activities. The scientific committee, the technical committee, our host that animated all the activities, the contributions of all the speakers. And to conclude, I need to say also the executive secretary, Françoise Pirana, Jacqueline, Christine, I don't know where she is. Her name keeps coming, but we could not see her much. Thank you very much for everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Annie. And it is with the digitalization that we are running quickly, and it's with face-to-face that we are going far away. With Annie Gauvin, we are always for sure going forward, ahead. Thank you very much, Annie, for those lessons, and we are going to recall plenty of good points. Thank you very much for trusting in Morocco, for these organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, remain in this dynamic, and with pleasure I'm inviting the great, the magnificent, the perfect, our honorary president Camille Moutet. I cannot venture to tell you to order you to speak just for 10 minutes, but please just speak for 10 minutes. I will try to limit myself to 10 minutes, but if I exceed this with 1 second, please do not take me for mistaken. Elected president of the WAPES, congratulations once again. Former president, Mrs. Representative of the Ministry of Work and Professional Insertion, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the lessons to recall. We have about to finish that we need still to engage ourselves in an intellectual exercise to maintain the key points. And I think that here some others have already left, others are going to leave soon, and we came to meet, to encounter each other, to think about each other, to learn, to hope, but furthermore to have some fun, to meet with other people, so as that our PES, and I think it is a successful event, as mentioned by Gauvin. But we had a theme, and this theme, we have mentioned it. It is about the question of the digitalization. What we are going to bear in mind once we are getting back home. The first lesson for me, it is very clear. It is that all the PS needs to adapt themselves to the evolution of their labor markets, and mainly to the phenomena of the digitalization of our activities, of course. Those activities are mediation. We need adapt for sure our schemes in what we are doing as mediation, so as to place the maximum people. If not, we have competition, and we are going to the professional training. It was mentioned, it was highlighted, the importance of the acquisition of adequate skills. First, internally, because our personnel needs to be enforced, strengthened as far as their skills and capacities are concerned, and also to elevate our job seekers and equip them so as they can master the manner with which they can look for some job opportunities, to get in touch, to find solutions, information, starting from tools and devices that we are making use of. And also the enterprises
with whom we work. You know, it has been said earlier, we are not at the same level everywhere. Even in the most developed regions, there are some head of enterprises, especially in the SMEs, that are very far from using these devices. And we should try to connect these enterprises to the best. We have also talked in our parallel sessions, we introduced the promotion or the support for the promotion of the project holders, those that are creating their enterprises. It is clear that we are also going to think and try to find the means to make sure that it can be done through the digitalization of our procedures and of our tools, and that we will put at the disposal of these people these tools, and of course also the capacity building in this field. In this challenge that we have to face, our pests have to be permanently reorganized, and they have to strengthen their monitoring system. It is very important. We need those that do not have this monitoring system, they have to implement it. It has to be a structure that is analyzing and anticipating, and that allows the pests not to be impacted, and to anticipate on time regarding the new opportunities of the market. We will have to also strengthen partnerships with all the stakeholders of the labor market. I'm thinking here about the private agencies, and I also would like to strengthen our relationships with the enterprises. And I think that we don't have talked much or heard much about the enterprises during this Congress. We will have to listen more and more to the enterprises, especially the small enterprises in some regions that are offering jobs. In the case of Cameroon, 80% of jobs offered are offered by SMEs. We have to listen to them. We have to know how these enterprises are handling this new way of recruiting thanks to digitalization. Because it is clear, we speak a lot about digitalization, it's very good, but can you imagine in an unbalanced market where there are a lot of job seekers and enterprises gives an offer when the enterprise receives 500 to 1,000 CV. How this enterprise is proceeding to do the short list, does this enterprise have the capacities to better select the right CVs? So we have to listen to them to know how much it costs. So these are things that we have experienced when we ask the question to the enterprises how to do.
What is the organization that they are implemented, so as they can choose one person at the end of this process. We have also recalled that the information, the training for the career
will be one of the key of the success. If we want to success in this digitalization, we will have to train our staff, train, as I said earlier, and of course we have to innovate, we have to anticipate permanently, knowing the impact of the technology on the relationship with job seekers. This has been said. This is something that is very important. It is true that in some region it's not the case yet, but in some region we have the phenomenon of robotization, which make us lose jobs. So we will also have to integrate that. It is part of digitalization of all of this. I have also noted that it will be very important for our PES to take into account the operations of their own labor market. The digital approach cannot be applied everywhere in the same manner. It has just been said. The markets are different. We will have to take into account the situation of the regions and also the situation of each country that are engaging in digitalization in order to do it in an intelligent manner, not to invest a lot of money for not very good results. We also need to know that the policies, which is an aspect that is very important, we are working with policies put in place by our governments. These policies are impacting our results. So we should not be just executing these policies, but through our benchmark system that we have on the labor market, we have to make proposals to our governments in order for those governments, when they put in place employment policies, for them to take account on the reality that we see on the ground. This is in terms of legislation and regulation, to be in favor of our PES and in order for us to be able to work conveniently. Finally, I have learned a lesson during this Congress, and we have just talked about it, is the one that is making, when we met, we have talked, and we had some good relation between each one, and this sympathy can become a friendship between the different head of PES. There are some promises that were made. I have myself met more than 10 colleagues, and we have promised to meet again. We have promised to strengthen our relations, because, as it has been said, we have PES that are still in a stage where they are trying to grow, that are not operational in a very convenient way. So these partnerships, this way we are going to meet, is going to allow us to strengthen each other. Those that are the bigger will support the small ones in order to be up to date and to be able to face the unemployment challenge that we have in most of the countries. Regarding WEPs, we would like that WEPs encourage these partnerships in the future. So it's not going to stay just a meeting that we had in Marrakesh, and when we go to the reality of the services, some are very advanced, such as Canada, Netherlands, and others that are very far from the expected level. So all of this has to be tackled through these bilateral partnerships that WEPs should encourage, and these bilateral partnerships were what we are planning through mentorships. Thank you to all of you. Thank you. Have safe trip back home, and once again congratulations to Morocco and good luck. Thank you very much, Mr. Kami Moude, Honorary President of WEPs from Cameroon. It's a pleasure to see you once again. The third and last speaker of this morning, I would like to call the specialist and coordinator of employment and policies at ILO, Mr. Michael Mwazika Kata. Please, can you give him a round of applause? Very happy to see you. You are coming from Malawi. Thank you.
The President, congratulations to the new President, the former President of WEPs, the Honorary President, dear members, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's always very difficult to speak after two prominent and eminent figures in WEPs. As the official observer of ILO of the WEPs, I've participated in a number of meetings, and I knew that when Annie Gauvin summarizes, it becomes very difficult to add. So I tried to look at reflections, and then she added reflections at the end. And then you had the President with reflections, so I'm not sure I have anything else new to add. If it was a work group, I would have said I agree and I go, but I'll still give some reflections. One thing that in terms of consensus, I would start with what I think was a consensus, sort of an emerging consensus, as the meeting started and progressed, and as we finished this morning with summaries, is that the world of work is changing. That there is no dispute. And this is driven by different factors which were discussed extensively yesterday, and that these factors must be taken into account. Issues to do with demographics, globalization, climate change, macroeconomic policies, particularly fiscal consolidation. As you know, after the crisis, there was some sort of quantitative easing, some sort of macroeconomic expansion, but when things started improving, there was a return to fiscal consolidation, and that had serious impact on public employment services. While the change is indisputable, I think also what I could pick from yesterday was that the values should not change. The values as represented, for example, as reflected in the Convention 122, ILO Convention 122 on the Employment Policy Convention, which promotes full, freely chosen, and productive employment. It is still a goal that is achievable. The manner of achieving it may change The definition of what is decent and what is not decent may change, but the ultimate goal of achieving a decent employment that contributes to inclusive growth and poverty reduction is still there. So even within the context of digitalization, even within the context of the changing world of work, there is still that mandate to which PACE and other actors must contribute. It is achieving a decent work, achieving inclusive growth. And also what I think was an emerging consensus was that PACE, or public employment services, as well as private employment agencies and other actors, are at the center of this change. We know from the Employment Services Convention, number 88, which says that public employment services are to act as coordinators, as organizers of the labor market, by working with both private and non-governmental organizations to make sure that the labor market is organized in such a manner that you achieve full employment. So PACE has that responsibility of ensuring that despite all this change, that goal is achievable. So if it is ill-prepared, it risks not only being overtaken by events, but also failing to achieve that role of contributing to the achievement of, for example, now, the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly goal number 8. And in this case, I would refer to what Fons mentioned yesterday, that therefore PACE needs vision, understanding, cooperation, and agility to be able to wave all these changes, but also lead others in ensuring that the adaptation is positive and also contributes to the achievement of the goals. And again, I listened very carefully to the Honorable President when he talked about the overall employment policies. I had this point also, that PACE is part of the overall employment policy framework. I think that we should start from there. It is not a separate institution. It's not just at the receiving end of policy. It is part of the overall employment policy framework. Being part of the overall employment policy framework, yes, it is there to implement most of the policies, but it's also there to inform the development of policies at a higher level, at sectoral level, at macroeconomic level. So I think it is the responsibility of the institution of PACE to know, to be aware of the fact that it is their duty to inform policy at a higher level and also to implement that policy. And then, in which case, technology becomes part of an enhancer. It's part of a sort of an enabler in order to contribute by providing information, by providing experiences, and by being able to evaluate. But in order to do that, PACE must demonstrate value. We often hear of effectiveness and efficiency. Two concepts, very interesting, but somehow not very easy to achieve at the same time. Achieving more with less. It's a nice expression, but what does that mean? It means that PACE must demonstrate its value. And the way to demonstrate value is to be able to measure what PACE provides. I think this also is one of the key lessons that should come from here, that when we talk of good practices, when we talk of good examples, we should also look beyond just the process, but rather at what is the impact on the ultimate outcomes that we want to achieve. Digitalization offers both opportunities and challenges. And I think this I can't say anymore, it has been said already. The important thing is to try and maximize on the opportunities and minimize the negative impacts. And as Camille has said, we must look at the context. The question again is, can PACE be able to use technology in its services in as much as the private employment agencies can do? The answer is probably yes. The question is, maybe it could even be more enhanced if there was partnership, and I think we had examples yesterday. And again, to repeat, digital first, not digital only. The context matters, and again, I think this was also emphasized, first by Suzanne this morning, by Anne Govar, and as well as by Camille. It is, in the development discourse, it has always been seen that development goes from agriculture to industry and then to the tertiary sector. And every country tries to evaluate itself in terms of that process. But then now there are discussions of premature deindustrialization in emerging and developing countries. The question is then, is that unique to overall development, or it also reflects on whether PACE can be in developing and emerging countries, can it go through the exact steps that PACE in advanced countries did? If not, then what are the innovative models that PACE in developing and emerging countries should adopt within the context of their economies and the level of development and the resources that they are at their disposal to provide the service that is commensurate with what is required? I think that's a key issue, and the ILO is really engaged in that to try and find, what works in what context. So we are ready to collaborate in that area. Partnerships are useful and are inevitable, and in this case I talk about partnerships in terms of delivery of services. That may not be panacea for solutions. So again, it depends on context. We have done a bit of research last year, I think, and we don't find concrete conclusions as to who can deliver services better, but there is evidence that working in partnerships can provide better services, can reduce resources, but it is not necessarily better or more cheaper or more efficient than delivering through public employment services. So what is important is to ensure that both options could be explored within the context and make sure that you maximize what brings most value. Ultimately, it is a political will, it's a political choice that is made at the employment policy level, at the political level, but also in terms of choice whether to decentralize or to centralize, whether to have increased funding or not, to leverage partnerships, how or why. And again, the question is, how can the Director Generals of PACE, how can WEBs help to influence that policy choice? I think that's one of the key issues. It is in the power of the DGs, in the power of WEBs, to be able to influence policy at country level, at regional level, and at international level. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Closing ceremony, giving the floor to the President, Mr. Nordin Ben Khalid. Under your applause, Mr. President of WEBs, 2018-2021. Dear friends and colleagues, Mr. Honor President, Mr. Former President, Mrs. the Director of Employment, ladies and gentlemen, Vice Presidents, ladies and gentlemen, General Directors. First of all, I would like to thank you all because you have allowed us to live the WEB's spirit as it has been underlined by many of my colleagues before me. WEBs has always been all of this, a lot of scientific content, a lot of themes that are very relevance and a lot of expertise on some profound topics, quality topics that are for us huge challenges, and webs has been and will stay and remain a space of relationship and family. The webs family is called to be strengthened and to go further and to make very important efforts. I would like also to thank all those I would say all those that have contributed to the success of this Congress. I would start by the former presidency, the executive secretary that worked very hard and that was behind the success of this Congress, and I would like also to thank in particular the team of ANAPEC that worked also very hard in the preparation and in the success of this Congress, and Anwar Alawi, that I would ask you to give him a round of applause. He is the coordinator of the team, and I would like also to thank all the women and the men of the ANAPEC that have contributed actively to this success. This Congress has been a big success because of many things, as it has been said. First, because of the very high level of the participants. We've had the honor of having among us the president of the managing board of ILO. I think it's the first time that he attends Congress of WIPs. We also had with us a lot of institutions, international institutions that are very important and that are strategic partners for WIPs and for economy, employment and human development issues. The speeches and were of very high quality. The topic is a current topic. We were able to have at least 3 or 4 very strategic and decisive ideas for the future. So for our PES, the first one is, as you have seen, the digitalization, which is an action that we cannot avoid. This is a project in which we have to engage actively. We don't have the right to miss it. We also had a topic that is a big concern for all of us, and that will be a concern for the market labor. The unavoidable destruction of some jobs or their transformation, and to face that we have to be very proactive and to be imaginative at the level of our ideas. So we have this reality that is very important. Is it only 15% of the existing employment in jobs? There are some predictions that stipulates that it will be 50% of the jobs. I hope that it won't be as important at that, in order for us to be facing a phenomenon that we will have growth, we will have production of wealth, but we will have a risk not to having jobs for everyone, knowing that we are already thinking in some researches to what we call a universal revenue. The idea is the following: we will have some money, we'll have wealth, there are some people that are going to work, and for the others to be able to live and to be integrated in the societies. We are imagining some kind of universal revenue for them not to be in a difficult situation. This is not going to solve the fundamental aspect of employment, which is dignity and the fact of feeling that you are useful for the community. Employment is something that is very deep. The future. How about the future? The future, as it has been said many times at the level of WAPES, is to continue strengthening the cohesion between the members from different countries and continents. Personally, I am committed to work on that. We have to continue to positionate WAPES at the international level and at the institutional level. And many dates, save the dates. We have June with the president of the managing board of ILO. We are going to put in place a strategic partnership. Another date is the one of December 2018 for a meeting with the managing board of PES Networking, and to see to what extent this space will continue to be integrated and to be actively committed at the level of WAPES. And also other dates were set in for a partnership with other similar organizations to PES Networking. I am thinking here about ASAP, RAPS. There are a lot of complementarities that can be there. We have to position it ourselves strategically and institutionally at the level of all of this. The future is the deployment of the long-term strategy as we have seen together, and this is something that we will have to success in, because it will allow every PES to put in place a roadmap, a 2020 roadmap, and have some visibility and work on clear projects. And it will allow the PES, as Camille said, that needs to be accompanied to have support. And I would complete the PES that have needs will be mentored by the PES that are more advanced, and the ones that have less needs can give to the others and are going to continue challenging it themselves. We are going to work on many different aspects, such as the diversification of financing sources, because it is essential. We need means for more events. We had some ideas. We are going to keep it up, keeping in mind the spirit of WAPES and its autonomy and independency in comparison with other organizations. Our organization has a specificity, knowing that it is public, but partnerships will be useful with all stakeholders. As it has been said by ILO. And so we have to coordinate and organize the labor market. Voila. Here we are at the end of our Congress. I would like to highlight that the program and the activities are not over yet. This afternoon we will have a cultural visit that will be very interesting in Marrakesh. So you are all invited to this cultural visit. I tell you, thank you, have a safe trip back home, and I give you a rendezvous at the next event of WAPES. Thank you, Mr. President. Wish you a lot of success and courage for your term. It's not over. I give the floor to the one that's asked me to be here, and I would like to thank in particular Christine Melika. Please stand up because she trusted me. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for all your work. We said it and I am saying it again. For all your creativity. Thanks to the support of Mr. Anwar Alawi for the last word.
C'est pas un mot de la fin, mais c'est...
It is not a closing remark, but it's just my word that it's my way to say to you farewell and a safe trip back home. But I'm going to tell it in Arabic, and I'm going to express it into standard Arabic. Who isn't that goes? Who isn't thankful to people? God is not going to thank him.
Le président l'a fait, très touchant.
It is very wholeheartedly for your remark that to see this class full of personalities. That is to say that we have at least met our promises, and I'd like to thank personally other people that are here, without whom we couldn't meet in here, or we couldn't. And here, please let me to call here in front of you all the team of the Executive Secretariat that have worked full-time in coordination with ANAPEC team to make from this event a real success. Christine, Jacqueline, Pierre-Alain, a huge thanks to Mrs. Abril that could not be with us, but she did a great job, and let's applaud them. So the task force team that has worked during several months, that has spent full days of work because we were in touch, and to whom I'm asking to spare, and I'd like you to be indulgent towards me in case I've forgotten a person in here, but the pressure was enormous to receive such multiple guests, all the team of the organizing team, the ANAPEC team, Imad, Fadwa, all those people that have worked, Madam Al-Gans, Mr. Zubair, Sabri, Mrs. Director of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ukash, Amina, Marwan. Thank you very much. Okay, please hurry up so as to close in the best way possible. Mr. Khalid Lehen, if he couldn't be here with us, but he helped us to do this. Thank you very much. They are all young like me. We have trusted, we have put our trust on him. But I think that he has honored our trust while we were discovering him and his outstanding performance, but also with the testimony of the Executive Secretariat. Mrs. Fadwa Travel C, the PC Travel, the yesterday's event, transportation, and all the stuff, as well as all her team. The team of the interpretation, piloted by Mr. Tamir, the boss of all the interpreters. Those young people of today, they work mainly behind the scenes, but their work is highlighted and presented to you. I cannot complete without him. So this establishment, this implementation, all the team and the design, to start with Mr. Andal, that we are not discovering, but all the decorum was here. I don't know if Andal is here with us. He is taken by something. He just come during the day to supervise things, and we need to supervise him. That would be all the result for this artistic event. The great, and I say the great, Yusuf Bashar, with all his team. Yusuf Bashar. Yusuf, please come here. He is very shy with his team. Mr. Yunus, and all the technic staff. Thank you very much for the work you have done. Thank you very much for what you have proposed to us, Mr. Mohammed. Laurent, sorry, I have called you as Laurent. For all the hosts, the security guards, the hotel staff that has hosted us, that has eased our staff, and supervised by Thomas Gregory, that I like to thank for their accompaniment. Mr. Muswab also, that has given us some insights about food, about nutrition, catering, and all the stuff. They are not here. They are behind the scenes because they are preparing your departures. The General Directorate of Marrakesh, presided by Mr. Qasbawi, that has spared no effort to accompany us to make from this event a success, for their hospitality that was outstanding. And I'd like to ask the President, Honorable President, and the former President to come here to have and to take a picture, souvenir picture with this team that really deserves it. Thank you very much, all the speakers, coordinators, all the speakers, reporters, and let's meet very soon. The president, please stand in the middle. If Mr. Anwar has a lot, and we are going to see each other, I don't know where exactly, but for sure we are going to miss you. Thank you very much. So as to close, to wrap it up, all of us, I'd like to ask you to come to take a picture, a group picture, AMSEP or WAPES family, WAPES organization. So please, everybody, come to take a photo group picture. Thank you very much. That is going to be the final picture. Thank you very much. Please hurry up. Come, everybody here.